My name's Callum, I'm 29, and until recently, I thought I was finally in a stable, grown-up relationship. After years of dating disasters and false starts, I'd met someone who felt different. Her name was Kayla. She was bright, quick-witted, and had this calm confidence that drew people in without her needing to say much. We'd been together for nearly a year, and I won't lie, I was all in. Mornings with her felt like peace, evenings felt like home, and for the first time in a long while, I let myself believe I'd finally gotten it right. I used to overthink everything. Who called first? Who texted last? How many X's were in her goodnight messages? But with Kayla, I relaxed. I didn't feel like I had to compete for space in her world, or so I thought. When she mentioned her ex, Liam, a few months in, it didn't set off any alarms. We dated in college, she'd said casually, sipping her coffee. It ended clean. He's a good guy, just not my guy. I nodded, trusting her word. I wanted to be the kind of man who didn't flinch at mentions of exes. Besides, we all have a past, right? But over time, the name Liam came up more often. Always in passing, always in that same light tone, like she was testing how much weight it carried with me. She'd mentioned that he used to make the best playlists, that he had this habit of eating dessert first, that he'd taught her how to longboard. He was annoying about it, she'd laugh. But he was patient. Still, I didn't say anything. I convinced myself it was harmless nostalgia. After all, I wasn't threatened. Liam was a memory. I was the present. Or so I kept telling myself. Even when she'd scroll through old photos and pause just a second too long, I swallowed it. I didn't want to be the insecure boyfriend. I let it go. Again and again. My birthday was coming up, and Kayla offered to plan the dinner. She told me she wanted to keep it small, just a handful of friends. Classy, she'd said. Simple and intimate. I trusted her, smiled, and even told her to keep the guest list a surprise. As long as you're there. I joked, it'll be perfect. We made the reservation at this quiet Italian spot downtown. Dim lights, live violinist, brick walls that made it feel like you were tucked away from the rest of the city. I wore the shirt she liked. She wore the perfume I got her for our 6-month anniversary. Everything seemed fine, until we walked into the restaurant and saw him. Liam, sitting there, already at the table, holding a small bouquet of purple freesia, Kayla's favorite. He stood up when he saw her, gave her this knowing smile, and said, "Still your scent, huh?" She laughed, actually laughed, and then turned to me like nothing was wrong. "You remember Liam," she said, sliding into the seat next to him. Not across. Next to. I didn't respond right away. I blinked. My mind tried to catch up to what was happening. My friends, about 8 of them, were scattered around the table. Most of them knew Liam too. They gave awkward waves or nods. No one said a word about the elephant sitting right next to my girlfriend. I tried to keep my voice level. "Didn't expect to see you here," I said, still standing, still trying to process. Kayla gave me this look, like I was the one being weird. "He's just here as a friend. Be mature about it." Then she leaned slightly toward him, whispering something I couldn't catch, and he handed her the bouquet. "You still know my favorite," she said softly, not even trying to hide the grin curling at her lips. And that was the moment. That was when something cracked. I wasn't loud. I wasn't dramatic. But I felt something shift inside me, like the last inch of rope finally giving way. I didn't sit. I didn't smile. I just picked up my wine glass, tapped it lightly with a fork, and said, "To my last day wasting time on someone who's still hung up on her ex." The table fell silent. A fork clinked against a plate. Kayla's smile froze, confused, then turning to embarrassed, then a flicker of anger. But I wasn't done. I turned to the waiter, who had just brought out appetizers, and said, "Actually, cancel the table. I won't be paying for this dinner." I placed the menu down, nodded politely to the stunned server, and walked out before anyone could say a word. The cool night air hit my face like a slap, but it felt good. Real. Honest. I didn't even look back. I walked 2 blocks to my car, sat in the silence for a few minutes, and let myself breathe. Then I drove home, blocked her number, took every reminder of her off my phone. But I wasn't done yet. Back at our apartment, or what used to be our apartment, I packed up her things into the storage tubs I'd bought months ago when she hinted at wanting more space. Clothes, makeup, that dumb ceramic cat her mom gave us. All of it. I didn't throw anything. I didn't break anything. I just packed it like someone closing a book they'd already finished, a story that didn't end how it should have, but ended exactly how it needed to. The final bag was zipped just after 2 a.m. I carried everything to the curb and placed it neatly under the street lamp. Took a picture for proof. Then I walked back up, locked the door behind me, and sat in the stillness. No messages came that night. But the morning was a different story. By morning, my phone had gone from 0 notifications to a storm of missed calls, unread texts, and a few long-winded voicemails, all from numbers I half recognized. Some were friends from the dinner. A couple were from Kayla's sister and even her co-worker, oddly enough. But not one was from Kayla herself. The first text that popped up on my lock screen was from my buddy Jason, who had been at the dinner. Bro, that was the coldest exit I've ever seen. I didn't know she invited him. That was foul. Then another from Tanya, a mutual friend. Callum, I don't blame you, but it got messy after you left. Kayla tried to play it off. Then Liam tried to say he was invited by you. What even happened? I didn't answer anyone. Not yet. I just watched the notifications pile up while I sipped my coffee and looked out the window at her stuff still sitting on the curb like a thrift store display. A couple of passers-by gave it a glance. One lady even picked up a scarf and turned it over in her hands. I didn't stop her. If Kayla cared that much, she'd have shown up by now. At around 10:30 a.m., my apartment buzzer rang. Once. Then again. Then a third time in a frantic burst like whoever was pressing it wanted the building to explode. I didn't even check the intercom. I already knew. Then came the text. Kayla texted, "Are you serious? You put my stuff on the curb? What is wrong with you? Where are my things?" I stared at it for a long second before replying. I replied, "They're outside. Just like our relationship, in plain sight, for anyone to take." Delivered. Read. No response. An hour later, another text came in, this one longer. Kayla texted, "You're being a child. Liam is my friend. I asked you to be mature, and you embarrassed me in front of everyone. You abandoned your own birthday dinner. Do you realize how unhinged that looks? I tried to do something nice for you, and you turned it into a disaster. You should be ashamed." That was the moment I realized she truly didn't get it. She wasn't sorry. She didn't feel bad. She wasn't embarrassed that she brought her ex to her boyfriend's birthday dinner. She was embarrassed that I didn't sit down and accept it. That's when I took a breath, opened my laptop, and did something I'd been quietly considering for weeks. See, Kayla and I had been talking about moving into a better place. Something bigger. She had floated the idea of putting the lease under her name next time for balance, since the last two had been mine. But I'd done some snooping recently, innocent at first, and found out she had quietly been using my credit for some strange pre-approvals. I ran a credit check 2 weeks ago. Nothing major. Just some suspicious activity. One failed application from a boutique furniture store. Another flagged pre-qualified loan from an online bank. All in my name. None in hers. I hadn't confronted her about it yet. I was giving her the benefit of the doubt. But now I clicked through to every alert and opened a fraud report with each one. Flagged them. Submitted copies of my ID and statements showing I never made those inquiries. Even sent along screenshots of old messages between us where she'd asked for my info, just in case we get pre-approved for a rental. Then I moved on to the shared streaming accounts. The shared Uber Eats login. Her gym membership tied to my card. All of it gone. I changed passwords, canceled the cards, revoked access. One by one. Quietly. Methodically. By the time I was done, it was nearly 1 p.m. I had a new credit lock in place. A new debit card on the way. And a living room that no longer smelled like her lotion or looked like it belonged to two people. Just me now. That's when the knocking started. Not the buzzer this time. Knocking. On the actual door. 5 short raps, then 3 slow ones. Like she didn't know whether to demand attention or beg for it. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then I heard her voice, muffled, but unmistakably hers. "Callum, can you please open the door? Just let me explain." I stayed silent. The knocking continued, softer now. I didn't plan for him to come. He said he wanted to give me flowers. That's it. It was a nice gesture. You overreacted. Still, I said nothing. After a few more pleas, there was silence. Then footsteps retreating down the hall. I waited another 5 minutes before checking the peephole. She was gone. But her final message was waiting. She texted, "If you think you can just erase me from your life like this, you're wrong. We shared a life. I deserve better than to be thrown out like trash." I stared at that one for a while, then typed out the last message I would ever send her. "Then you should have treated me like more than a placeholder." And that was it. No more texts. No more calls. But I had a feeling this was far from over. That dinner, that was just the beginning. The following few days were eerily quiet, like the calm after a storm. Not because the storm had passed, but because it was gathering strength again just beyond the horizon. I didn't hear from Kayla again directly, but the universe has a funny way of reminding you of the people you're trying to erase. The first reminder came from a mutual friend, Zoe, who messaged me on Instagram of all places. We weren't particularly close, but she and Kayla used to work together and had shown up at a few game nights we hosted. Her message was short. Hey, just wanted you to know Kayla's telling everyone you left her homeless and humiliated on purpose. I'm not trying to stir anything. Just thought you should be aware. She's saying you planned the whole birthday thing to trap her. I stared at the message, blinking. Homeless? Humiliated? No. She was spinning it, twisting it into some melodrama where she was the victim and I was the cold, calculating villain. I felt my stomach turn. It wasn't just betrayal now, it was defamation. Quiet, under-the-radar poisoning of my reputation in circles we both once shared. I didn't respond to Zoe right away. Instead, I opened my private journal doc, the one I'd kept ever since things first started feeling off with Kayla months ago. I'd been jotting down little red flags, receipts, inconsistencies, mostly as a way to stay sane. But now it looked more like evidence. There were things I hadn't told anyone, like the time she borrowed my laptop and forgot to log out of her email, and I saw a message to Liam saved in drafts. It wasn't sent, but it was real. If things were different, it had said. Sometimes I think about that night at the cabin. I hadn't brought it up. Maybe I didn't want to know. Or maybe I was scared the truth would unravel everything I'd worked so hard to hold on to. But now I wanted the truth out. So I took screenshots, compiled timelines, forwarded flagged credit activity to myself from the bank, highlighting the dates and times she'd borrowed my info. I even saved a voice recording I'd made when she asked me to co-sign a furniture loan. It was legal. We were in a one-party consent state. I'd been uneasy about it at the time. Thank God I trusted my gut. Then came the second hit. Jason, my closest friend since high school, texted me to ask if I'd heard about the podcast. What podcast? Apparently, Kayla had done an anonymous guest spot on some low-tier relationship podcast a week after everything blew up. She didn't name names, but it was clear from the details that she was talking about me. About us. She called me controlling, emotionally manipulative, and said I weaponized my finances to punish her. Jason sent me the clip. My hands were literally shaking by the end of it. I wasn't angry. I was stunned. She'd painted this version of events so cleanly that even I started to wonder if maybe I'd missed something. Maybe I had been too cold, too abrupt. Then I remembered the birthday dinner. The flowers. The way she looked at Liam. The whisper. The smirk. How she slid into the seat next to him like it was his celebration, not mine. No, I hadn't been cold. I'd been done. And now, I had a decision to make. I could move on, quietly, cleanly, and let her keep spinning her little fables into whatever version of truth made her sleep better at night. Or I could do what she never expected. Tell my side. With proof. With receipts. With the calm precision she always mistook for weakness. I didn't want revenge, not really. But I wanted clarity. I wanted people to see. I started small. Anonymously, I emailed the podcast host. Politely, professionally, linking to a few key screenshots and documents that clearly contradicted Kayla's claims. I didn't ask them to take it down. I just said, in the interest of fairness, you should know the full story. Then I went further. I reached out to my HR department. Quietly, carefully, told them I might be dealing with someone spreading false information that could affect my professional reputation. Not that anything had reached them yet, but if it did, I wanted them to hear it from me first. They were sympathetic. Asked for documentation. I sent them the same file I'd sent the podcast. Then, finally, I unblocked Kayla. Not to talk, but to watch. Sure enough, a day later, she messaged me again. Why did the podcast take the episode down? I didn't answer. Then she followed up. Did you seriously contact my job? What is wrong with you? She thought it was retaliation. It wasn't. It was self-protection. That's when I realized the real threat wasn't the public story. It was the private damage. The quiet sabotage, the whispered lies. She wasn't trying to ruin me loudly. She wanted to do it behind closed doors, where I couldn't defend myself. But she forgot who she was dealing with. I'd built my life carefully, patiently, And I wasn't about to let it collapse because someone couldn't handle being called out on their mess. So I waited, watched, and planned my next move. One that would make her rethink every whisper, every smirk, every lie she tried to tell in the dark. It took me another week to get everything together, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted every piece of it to be perfect. Clean, precise, no chaos, no drama, just truth, laid bare like a glass table. The world could look right through it and see every crack she tried to hide. I didn't want a spectacle. I didn't post some vague tweet. I didn't go off in a group chat. I wasn't trying to humiliate Kayla. That would have been too easy. And honestly, I didn't care about revenge as much as I used to. I just wanted to make it impossible for her to pretend anymore. No more playing the victim. No more half-truths whispered behind people's backs. No more lies about who I was and what I did. I was done giving her space to rewrite our story while I kept quiet out of some false sense of decency. So I wrote a letter. Not a letter to her. A letter about her. For the people who had been asking, wondering, or just silently forming opinions based on what she fed them. The mutual friends. Her coworkers. Even her family, who I'd met at holidays and smiled politely through every awkward interaction. They deserved to know what happened. And more importantly, I deserved the peace that comes from no longer hiding. I started with the night of my birthday. I described it plainly. No theatrics. No exaggeration. I told them about the restaurant. About how she invited her ex and didn't warn me. About the flowers. The whisper. The moment I realized I was a background character in my own relationship. Then I moved on to the details she didn't think anyone knew. I included screenshots. Just a few, not everything. The message to Liam sitting in her email drafts. The timestamp of the online loan inquiry made from our IP address while she was logged into my laptop. The voice clip where she asked for my social just in case. I made it clear I wasn't pressing charges. I wasn't going to the police. I just wanted it to stop. The whisper campaign, the fake victim narrative, the half-baked podcast story about how I was emotionally controlling because I didn't want her ex feeding her flowers across a shared dinner table. At the bottom of the letter, I added a note. I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm just giving you all the facts so you don't have to pick blindly. And then I attached a folder, labeled plainly. Kayla, full context. No rage. No insults. Just truth. I BCC'd the people I thought deserved to know. Mutual friends. Her sister, who once told me in confidence that Kayla had a savior complex and always needed someone to fix. Even Zoe, who had been brave enough to reach out first. Then I clicked send, and it was done. I didn't check my phone that day. I went for a long walk. Got lunch by myself at a spot by the lake. Let the breeze wash over me like I was shedding something old and stale. I didn't feel vindicated. Not yet. But I felt free. The fallout didn't take long. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Bro, it's like a nuke went off. A minute later, Tanya. Everyone's talking about your email. People had no idea. I'm sorry. I judged you wrong. Then one from Zoe. Callum, thank you. For saying it. For showing it. I think a lot of us needed to see it laid out like that. I didn't get dozens of messages. Just a few. But they were enough. Later that evening, I got a call. I didn't recognize the number, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered. Callum. It was Kayla's voice. Quiet. Strained. Almost broken. I read your email, she said. You really sent it to everyone. I didn't say anything. She kept talking. I know what you think of me. I probably deserve it. But I didn't think you'd actually do this. I thought you were too nice. I thought you'd just let it go like always. Her voice cracked. You made me look like a liar. I didn't make you anything, I said calmly. You did that on your own. I just stopped covering for you. She went silent. I could hear her breathing. You embarrassed me, she whispered. No, I said. I gave people the truth. That's not the same thing. I lost friends over this, she said, her voice rising slightly. Do you even care? I lost myself over you, I said. I cared more about protecting your feelings than my own dignity. So no, Kayla, I'm not sorry that you finally had to face what you did. There was a long pause. Then, quietly, so this is it? This was at the moment you chose him over me at that dinner. She didn't respond. I hung up first. Weeks passed. Life moved on. The group chats changed. Some people stopped reaching out altogether, and honestly, I was fine with that. The ones who mattered stuck around. Jason invited me to a poker night. Tanya brought me into a trivia league. Zoe and I got coffee a few times and ended up laughing more than I expected. I moved to a new apartment, one without the ghost of her perfume in the hallway or her coat still hanging on the hook like she'd be back any minute. I bought new dishes, a new lamp, nothing crazy, just small things to make the space feel like mine again. But the biggest change was internal. I stopped bending. I stopped explaining myself to people who only heard half the story. I learned how to say no. I learned how to trust my gut, that quiet voice that had tried to warn me months ago when I first saw that message in her email. Most of all, I learned that you can love someone deeply, fiercely, and still walk away when they show you they don't respect you. One evening, about 2 months later, I ran into Kayla at a bookstore downtown. She was alone, browsing through a stack of poetry books, hair pulled back, face bare. She looked smaller. Not physically, just less. She noticed me and froze. "Callum," she said, almost like a reflex. "Kayla." She looked at the book in her hand, then back at me. "You look good. Thanks." A long silence stretched between us. The weight of everything unspoken hung in the air. "I hope you're doing okay," she said finally. Her voice was sincere. "I am," I said, and for once, I really meant it. She gave a small, sad smile. "I was stupid." "You were," I said gently. "But I was, too. I let it go on longer than I should have." She nodded. "Yeah." Neither of us reached out. Neither of us offered to catch up. And then, like two strangers who had once shared something beautiful and broken, we went our separate ways. No rage. No bitterness. Just closure. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I walked out of that bookstore feeling lighter. I wasn't the villain in someone else's story. I wasn't a placeholder in a love triangle. I was Callum, whole, honest, and finally free. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below.